with the other motorhomes.
Where's that?
They're in here.
Parked with the other tanks.
We'll park with the tank, yeah.
That was a Comet tank crew. That's quite something. Training stand. Tanks to look out for. Challenger 2, still the main battle tank. T-34, T-85. Sherman. Challenger 1. .2 miles, wow. A Meteor engine. So 27 litre, 600 horsepower. That's the arena up there, so obviously nothing on at the moment. We'll start downstairs. As they say in the birth of the tank broke the deadlock of that. This is the first tank going into production. The first tanks were called land ships because they were responsibility of the Admiralty. That was the first thought they had. I thought we'd use a tractor. The idea obviously was to cross the trenches. First prototypes. No trouble with the tracks, the first ones they used. Yeah. So this was the first real tank. It's probably meant as an insult to the Kaiser. It's too short to cross the wider trenches that the Germans were building. And moved on to something like this. Training tank that went to Mark II.
Bert Osgood here. It's my job to work these two red levers. My pal behind me does the same on the other side. We call the levers the secondary gears, and we won't get very far without them. You see the gears up front, which the driver works? They only give 2 speeds and reverse. And this tank weighs 28 tons, so 2 gears ain't really enough. So with extra gears at the back, 2 each side. They're mostly for steering.
First tanks were either male or female. If they had machine guns, they were female. If they had cannons, they were male. So this one was female. Victoria Cross. Medium Mark A. So this was twice as fast as the Mark II. Went into production and into battle in March 1918. Machine guns. So this is the 1928 Mark E tank. Medium Mark II. From 1923. Look at this one. It's probably the smallest one in here. Got a machine gun on the front. Right. So this was a Lanchester Mark II armoured car. Twin axles at the back. Not a new idea. Royal Tank Regiment is a creation apart. It's composed of rude mechanicals who despise horses. Panzer II. That's the symbol of the Blitzkrieg. Hundreds, 2,000 Panzer tanks were built like this one, and they've served until 1943. The light, is that Mark 11B? Tiny. See how small it is next to me? Falling over. Small tank that braved big battles, so it's really a reconnaissance tank, this one. It saw service in France against the Italian army and the Africa Corps, North Africa, and the Japanese in the Far East. The first tank to be built in large numbers. From 1936 through to 1942. Mark III, the fastest tank of 1940. Yeah, so this was the fastest tank of 1940. It was faster than the German Panzers and one of the best guns, but they lost many in the battle for France. They fared better in the desert, and their speed enabled them to cut off and defeat a huge Italian army in Libya. 2-pounder gun. Could only fire armour-piercing rounds, not high explosives though. So this was the French Charby one from 1935. Actually used by the Germans after they captured some of them. More like a World War I tank, but the British Regiment almost wiped out in the siege of Calais. So this was a V12 petrol engine originally designed for aircraft use, and it was used in the A-13 cruiser tank. The distributor Reef. Just below us is a T-34 tank. More tanks over there. That's good. Yeah, it's great this. Love it. In 1943, the Battle of Kursk. Over 8 days, 2,700 German and 3,306 Russian tanks and assault guns clashed in the greatest armoured battle of the Second World War. Operation Citadel was the turning point of the war in the east. Germany fielded its Tiger and Panther tanks, but the Russian strategy was first to fight defensive battle with more tanks, more guns, more men and more aircraft. In the end, it was the Russians that won. I have to step back for this one. That's the Panther, the German Panther. A group of tanks that were built under British supervision after the German factory in Hanover had been taken over by the Allies. Those captured Panther fought alongside the German Churchill tanks with the name Cuckoo, as it was a stranger in the nest. Now, the British Regiment seized a Panther and named it Deserter because it had changed sides. Size of that. It was a gearbox and steering unit. So this bit is about North Africa, hence the desert colours. So this is a trailer for carrying fuel, ammunition and water and rations towed behind a tank. So this was a Crusader 3 cruiser tank Mark 6. So this was the light tank, the Stuart Mark 3. No, sorry, Stuart Mark 4. Said it was difficult to operate because it had a shaft going down the middle. It made it difficult for the crew to operate. So that was a Valentine, another light infantry tank Mark III, or the Valentine 9. Said it was a bit slow, it can only do 15 miles an hour, so this rather unusual tank here is the Grant Medium, an American tank. It had 2 guns, one in the hull and obviously the turret gun. So it was very welcome during the war. Sort of get an idea what it was like in there. But, Rommel said the new American tank has torn great holes in our ranks. But it was very tall because of it. I suppose it made it stand out as a target, because it was up against things like this. It was a Panzer III, and it was produced in large numbers, and it was easy to modify and improve. The armour trebled in thickness over 5 years, and the size of its gun increased from 37mm to 50mm. Kettencrad? Yeah, it's called the Kettencrad, this thing. And obviously one of the best things about it was it could be transported in an aircraft, so used as a communications device and small troop carrier. Tied in the desert terms. The US sees action. Operation Torch. There was a joint invasion of North Africa. It was the first time the Germans and the US had faced each other. Reef. I'm going to fit all that in. So this was a Centurion Mark III, equipped as a flamethrower. Yeah, so this is a Crocodile Mark VII. Again, had a flamethrower on the front. It was quite slow, but it could climb, and it had stronger armour. So this was the last Churchill ever built. It came to the Tank Museum in 1949. A bit how the flamethrower works. Oh, dreadful thing. It's probably one of the most famous tanks of the war, the Sherman Firefly. Had a much better gun than the Germans, but it was quite vulnerable. Its armour was not as thick. But it was the first tank that's said to match the Tiger tank for firepower anyway. That's what it fired. And Cromwell cruiser tank. And that had a fighter plane engine in it. Made by Leyland. Had a Rolls-Royce Meteor engine. Built near where I live, in Preston. It was one of the funnies, the so-called funnies. It was designed to wade ashore. Massive sort of canvas around it, I guess. I think I'd fancy being inside that. And for destroying fortifications. Ramp carrier, so a bridge, scale obstacles. 3 in all. And Suez Crisis.
From Pete and Gwen of the 3rd Battalion, the Royal Anglian Regiment, to Mum, Kath and Caroline at 5 Faversham Avenue.
There's a Leopard tank. Small and light, very different from the German tanks of the Second World War. First appeared in 1963. So, German army had changed its thinking. Still being modified and improved on today. This is a Chieftain tank. The first main battle tank. First entered service in 1972, serving in Germany with the 4th Tank Regiment. Had a telephone on the back so that soldiers could ring the people inside. Gosh, you can smell the oil on them. Wow. A 4.2 litre engine built by Jaguar, which is used in the E-Type, the only engine with the power and appropriate shape to fit the narrow engine of the Scorpion reconnaissance vehicle, which is used in these tanks here. Elvis Scorpion. It's one of the fastest tanks, 72 kilometres an hour. And these were used in the Falklands because they were light enough to travel over the soft boggy ground. It's a Leyland L60 engine. They normally run on diesel, but all Allied tanks had to be equipped with multi-fuel engines, so they could use oil or petrol. 750 brake horsepower, or 750 horsepower, 2,100 RPM. About the first Gulf War. As far as the eye can see, tanks, reconnaissance vehicles and other transport of the British 4th Armoured Brigade posed for a group photo on the eve of battle. The Iraqi army was made up of 1 million soldiers and near 2,000 tanks. The coalition had 3,000 tanks, including the M1 Abrams, British Challenger 1 and the Q80 M84AB, which are vastly superior to the export versions of the Soviet and Chinese tanks used by the Iraqis. Challenger 2 tank. Britain's main battle tank. So the main 120mm gun can fire up to 8 rounds a minute. Still being used, and it's going to remain in service till 2020. This place is huge. You could spend, well, you could certainly spend all day here. I only got here at 3 o'clock, just had a look around the tank story. More exhibitions over here. Tank Museum on YouTube. Visit youtube.com, the Tank Museum. Oh my god. Ford V8, the finest of all Sherman tank engines. That was a General Pershing M26. A tank for laying smoke screens. There's a landing tracked vehicle. It's a tracked amphibious vehicle built by the United States. Original Matilda. Humber Scout car. Saracen special water dispenser, and that was used for riot control. Russian heavy tank, 1941. A tank that surprised the Germans. 85mm cannon. Mechanised gun, Russian field gun, a redundant tank chassis, 8-wheeled armoured car, quite advanced for its day. Now that's the smallest tank. Basically a bomb on tracks, the remote control device. So they produce 5,000 of these. They carry 100 kilograms of TNT. It was too slow to catch up a moving tank and often rolled upside down on uneven ground. Another mobile bomb on tracks. A Jagdtiger. And an 88mm cannon.
I know this is an
Light tank, M24. Armoured half-track. Cruiser tank converted into a bulldozer. This was the Sherman 5 Crab mine clearing tank. It was meant to be carried in a glider. What? Actually used in 1944, carried inside a glider. Can't imagine it. Valentine Archer, self-propelled anti-tank gun. Designed to back up quickly. AEC armoured car. A Staghound armoured car. Grief. Earth is this? Tortoise, massive self-propelled gun built at the end of the war. Armoured assault tank, so that it actually played no part in the Second World War. It was just a massive. Had a 3.7-inch anti-aircraft gun. Grief. Concrete armoured lorry. Improvised armoured vehicle. Protected with concrete. Mobile pillboxes. Sherman 2A, the 76mm gun. The most successful tanks of the Second World War used in mass production could be built quickly. Matilda 1 and a Matilda 2. Some of the people, some of the memories. Displays showing how the guns are developed. On a 3.7-inch medium tank, 75mm Grant, 76.2mm Sherman Firefly, and a Tiger 188mm. Originally, that one was originally designed as an anti-aircraft gun. Penetrate 84mm of armour at 2,000 yards. Every Allied tank except the Churchill was vulnerable. Well, that nicely rounds it up, doesn't it? Like Lawrence of Arabia and these Bruff Superior. So you joined the tank corps. So this was a Japanese tank, a Type 95 Hago, first produced in 1935, made by Mitsubishi. And they built over 1,000 of these at an air-cooled diesel engine. So this was a Chrysler A57 multibank. Made up of 5 6-cylinder engines bolted together around a common crankshaft. That looks complicated. It's a radial engine. Sometimes they'd only run for 100 hours, and said that was the problem with them. That's the oldest surviving Sherman.
Mine was as a B3 gunner, was right Bishop.
Testing armour plates. You see some of the rounds went through. A ferret armoured car. That's what it was like on the inside. Tiny seat. That was the Stridswagen, and the idea was to remove the turret to lower the profile, but obviously the problem with that, of course, is that you have to swing the whole vehicle round to aim it. So it's the idea of a plastic tank, or a composite material to reduce weight. It'd be a bit difficult to see this, but that's a Conqueror Mark 1. Then you've got Chieftain Mark 12 and 2 Challengers. Challenger 1 and a Challenger 2 and an Iraqi version at the back. Biggest tank in the whole museum, weighed 80 tons. were designed before the Second World War, and the idea that the Second World War was going to be like the First World War. Of course it wasn't. Absolutely enormous. All about Afghanistan.
Unique to the vehicle itself. There's no other vehicle in the British Armed Forces which uses this design. What this allows us to do is when it comes down to servicing, or if we throw a track, for example, we can have the track on and off in a short period of time.
Scimitar armoured reconnaissance vehicle.
The contact has got a camera on the front, which is called a DNVS, which is driver's night vision system. This can be used during the daytime too. We're now at the rear of the scimitar, as you can see immediately behind me. We've got the back base.
On September the 11th, 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists attacked the United States in a series of suicide bombings. In New York, 2 planes were crashed into the World Trade Center, causing the collapse of the famous Twin Towers. Nearly 3,000 people lost their lives. The following month, the United States, along with other nations, launched an invasion of Afghanistan with the stated aim of removing the safe haven to Al-Qaeda and its use of Afghan territory as a base for operations for anti-US terrorist activities.
Or maybe up the stream bed, you can pump up the suspension high like it is now, and that enables us to go over pretty much anything. The Jackal really is a fantastic vehicle to work with. My time in Afghanistan, it really was my home. My whole life was stored on the vehicle. I've worked on it most of the day, and then at night I would get down and
The Tiger. Roof. Jagdtiger. Tiger Mark 2. Production model of it. T-34. This is a tank from the film Fury. So you're saying the film producers came to the museum in 2013 looking for tanks. Sherman seeing an ideal vehicle to use as a hero tank, and it was fitted out to look like a tank in action.
Ein Vorschleißding, schnell, gerätlich, reaktiv und auch gefährlich.
Ammunition.
But again, it's rather fortunate that the Germans didn't build more Tigers, because I think there were only hundreds or possibly just over 1,000 of them built, when we, or the Americans, built 25,000 Germans, for instance. So the army, the Allies were able to keep on producing tanks. However many of the Germans knocked out, there were always more tanks. But that didn't help the individual tank crew when they were up against the German Tiger.
Up against those things. Tiger 1 cost 3 times as much to produce as a Panzer IV. So only managed to produce 1,300 47 Tiger 1s and 490 King Tigers. This weighed 70 tons, the Jagdtiger. And it was the heaviest track vehicle to fight in the Second World War. Front armour was 7.9 inches thick and completely proof against all Allied and anti-tank guns. Only 85 of the 150 ordered were ever built. It was plagued by breakdowns and a number of losses resulting from incompetence and inexperience. Here's the Tiger 2. It had a longer 8.8 centimetre gun, even more powerful than that fitted to its predecessor. This vehicle was captured by the British at the end of the war and evaluated at the School of Tank Technology. Fascination with the Tiger tanks. Only 7% of total production.
You'll find out more soon. Now over there with the other recruits and get kitted out.
You just don't know, do you? I suppose you have to be there yourself once now. Well, no. I don't know what's coming, but I feel ready to do whatever awaits. In God's name. Right. God makes our tenants skeleton and makes you strong and brave. You will be strong and brave. Whatever happens, we'll be facing it together. Yes. But if it does happen, George, I couldn't be more cheered to see you by my side. I hope you know I value your comments. Oh, what?
Hornsby chain tractor, designed to switch from paraffin.
What is this? Get me away from it! The ground is shaking under my hooves. Where's Captain Curtis? I can't find him. Get me away from this monster! Calm down, Jazz. That monster is a tank. The minis are not.
called Tiny. Oh, grief. Can actually go in here. It's really cramped in here. Imagine being in one of this. Right by the engine. Oh. See how little headroom I've got here.
Family, it's been something that an eye-opener, and we're suddenly realising that we basically had a war hero among our
Glad to be out of there. Engine.
The Battle of Conway began on November the 20th, 1917. It lasted for over 10 days. It is now 7:20 a.m. The tanks are going through the wire and crossing the trenches, which the Germans thought impregnable. British artillery fire is falling in front of our advancing tanks and on the Hindenburg support line. German artillery is firing.
Whatever happens, I'll be ready to serve my country. Do what my master asks of me. You did.
It was a land battleship, so that was 1920. Independent heavy tank. Never entered service. I'm actually quite blown away by that exhibition. It's huge. Spend a lot of time in there. But yeah, I'll probably have to cut it down to quite a few minutes. But that tank museum is something to be believed. How many tanks there are in there, quite incredible. Couldn't sort of take it all in really. I think it says allow at least 3 hours for your journey, for your trip round rather. If you're into tanks, then it's definitely the place to come. I'm not sure how much of the footage I'll use. I think I filmed about 2 hours worth.
Oh, great.
I'll try and pick out the best bits. Yeah, no, it was good. Really, really good.